Okay, so now recording progress. So, as I said, we'll anything that we're not happy about, it can be edited out anyway. So that's never an issue. Trying to keep it down to about sort of 30 to 45 minutes. Really should try and sort of, otherwise people lose interest.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so recording in 1, 2, 3. So good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Frank. Thank you for joining me on this this very special podcast today with the lovely Kym Eagle. For those of you who don't know me, I am a NES Health wellness practitioner. I've been working with NES for just over 15 years. Also work with the company, offering support to practitioners and also to clients. So I brought Kym onto the call with me today. I'm really excited to bring Kym onto the call because we only met probably a few months ago, but we haven't actually met in person yet, have we?
Not yet.
But Kym has got a fantastic background. She's actually been around NES for a long time as well, but I'll let her tell you her story in a moment. But I wanted to bring her on the call because I think she's got some really great top tips to share with people, and her journey of how she got into health and wellness and what she's achieved and what she's able to offer and how she can help people. I think she's got some really key areas that she can share with people. So Kym, good morning and
good morning.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Helen. I really appreciate being invited onto your podcast.
My pleasure. So, as I said, we've never actually met in person, and we've only ever met via Zoom calls. But I really, I was quite intrigued by you and your approach, and and it kind of really, what you do really resonated with me, and I thought it was really valuable that you share that with other people. So, do you want to initially, when you first got into health and wellness? I mean, traditionally, most people who get into health and wellness, it's often because of their own health challenges, and they found something that works for them, and then they continue on that journey. And that was my personal journey, but this isn't about me today. But you've come from health and wellness from a completely different angle, haven't you?
Well, yes, in saying that, I think I started on my health journey at a very young age. Something I actually didn't say, and, I'll pop it in here now, is that I struggled with an eating disorder from the age of 13, 14. And it was at the time my mother left our household and left me with my dad. And I found myself struggling a little bit with, what to eat now and how to eat and all the rest of it. So I started using all of my spare time to kind of really learn about nutrition. And I'd say I went a little bit onto the extreme side with, the nutritional stuff and cutting everything out. To the point, of a little bit of a starvation there, but I did recover from that, fortunately. But it did catapulted me into a journey of health. And I do remember when everybody was out partying on the weekends and, getting drunk and trying out alcohol at a young age of 16, I decided that I would invite my friends over for a wellness weekend. So it started pretty young and pretty much there. All the things that I'd learned, as I was delving into the health industry and everything health, actually. And it wasn't only really just nutrition. It was all about, it was a holistic approach to wellness. So those were fun times. We'd get all together, us girls, and we'd have this wellness weekend where we'd do body brushing and a little bit of exercise, yoga, some meditation. We'd put on some nice music and relax with cucumbers over our masked eyes, So yeah. It was really great fun. And what a wonderful, way to spend a weekend,
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I kind of started.
So kind of like that, almost like that, that business head for creating
Yes,
environment
yes.
to educate other people actually started at a very early age for you.
Yeah, I think that's had its good points and its bad points, Helen, because, you know, when you are a trailblazer, they call us, that, you know, sometimes you're a little bit ahead of the curve. And what you've got to offer is sometimes a little bit before people are willing to accept it. And I did find that in many of the things that I had, you know, going forward, they were kind of a little bit ahead of people's time, which was all, it's okay. You know, you have to have a trailblazer. I think, you know, the telephone is a great one, you know, where the Bell guy, he invented the telephone, and people were like, oh no, we'll never, you know, have a cell phone now, you know, and look at us all attached to them. So, you know, you have to have that trailblazer, I think, at some
Yeah,
point.
no, absolutely. I think, no, definitely. I think anything that's you know, when it's part of your life, isn't it?
Yes,
And
yes.
and you know, and facing that adversity from other people, and you know, and to be honest, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you know, I was the party animal. You know, and
Good.
if someone invited me to a wellness weekend at that point, would I have gone? Or would I have gone out with my friends to the local pub and disco and things? Probably I would have chosen the pub and the disco.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so you know, so where did you then sort of take this? Because I know you started a family quite young, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So I found myself pregnant, quite young, unmarried and pregnant. So we got hitched, as they say. And whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I have 3 beautiful children out of that, and I'm forever grateful for them. But it did, you know, it did put a kind of a halt on things because, you know, you're having 3 children, you're pregnant, you're breastfeeding, you're doing all these things, you're multitasking at a very young age again. And it kind of put a little bit of a halt on where I wanted to go, which was to actually study medicine. And so I thought, okay, well, what's the next best thing? I might as well just study, you know, functional medicine and nutritional therapy. So I started my studies with that. It took a lot longer than what it should have because I was juggling, you know, all of these different aspects, and my babies came one after the other. So I had them 2 years and 2 months apart to the date.
Wow.
And that was unplanned by myself, but obviously we have a greater force going on, and that was planned. So I continued to study and obviously use all of the things that I was using, you know, studying and learning out of my nutritional therapy and my functional medicine courses. And, you know, I can honestly say that none of my children have ever been to a doctor. Obviously later on in life, you know, like in the 1820s, they decided they would want to venture in and see what a doctor's rooms looks like. But I basically, you know, kind of treated us as a family, myself. So I had my 3 kids, and actually shortly after that, my husband and myself decided that it was not a match made in heaven. And so we parted our ways, which was actually fine by me because of my independent spirit. I actually thought bringing up kids on my own was a lot easier in the aspect of my rules, one and only, nobody else to interfere. But on a financial state, it was a little bit more shaky.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's when I decided to take on some agencies, and I had about 11 agencies, and we call them agencies where I'm from in South Africa. And I'm not sure what they're called here, but they're basically taking on somebody else's product and then providing those products into the health industry. And they were all very much ahead of the times because they were products that had absolutely no chemicals or no additives or anything. So I was known as the agency person go-to if you wanted natural, completely natural products. So I supplied those to the health industry, health shops, pharmacies, doctors. I had beautiful ranges going into homeopaths. And of course, I could learn more and more because I'm mixing with like-minded people. Also, you know, you learn a lot from the people that you hang out with. They say that if you want to be something special, then make sure that you're hanging out with people that are adding to your life, you know, in the knowledge department. So I certainly surrounded myself with, you know, really interesting, innovative, forward-thinking people, doctors, health professionals, etc. And all the time, still studying, you know, carrying on, just adding to my toolkit.
Yeah.
All the time. I've never ever stopped learning and adding to that toolkit, even today, you know.
So were you actually helping people with their health and wellness at that time, or were you just sort of concentrating on the health agency?
Well, the health agency part was bringing in the bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And after hours on the weekends and that, I would have consults with friends and family, and that then became word of mouth, and I would start to build up a bit of a clientele from that.
Okay.
So it started, you know, very slowly, very organically, actually.
Yeah.
So, and then I'd talk to somebody at the pharmacy and they'd say, oh, hang on, my mother needs some help in that department. And, you know, I'd see her after hours, or it was my own business. So I had hours that I could take from my day.
Yeah.
And of course I was charging for it. So it was all money making for me. You know, it was, I had to keep roof over our head and food in our bellies.
Yeah.
And, you know, the story of life in general.
Okay, so where did that, what did that evolve into?
Yeah, so then I thought, okay, all this running around is all, you know, pretty exhausting, because I would drive with my products, etc., and drive to the pharmacies, all of them. And I had the whole of the Western Cape. So South Africa, I was working in South Africa at the time. And it is a big country, as you know.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in charge of the whole of the Western Cape, which is sort of like the tip part of the Africa map. And it would take me sometimes a week to just do one cycle. So it was very, very exhausting. And, you know, having 3 small children and, you know, juggling everything, I decided it was time to maybe look at renting rooms or setting up some kind of wellness center. It had always been a dream of mine, but I didn't really know how, or, you know, how to get going with it. So one of the owners of the pharmacy actually said to me, there was a house next to the pharmacy that was going up for rent, and would I look at opening rooms there? And so that's what I did. But of course, it was a home with 6 rooms. And so what I did was I found another 6 practitioners. Actually, there were 12 in total, because they would share then their rooms. And that became quite a managerial nightmare. In fact, you know, I found myself having to sometimes be up 12 o'clock in the evening. I was still working out the books, you know, and that was really not where I wanted to be with that. But it was very successful, and everybody feeds off one another. So it's really great in that fact, because one will refer another to another. And so there was always business rolling in, which was great.
Yeah.
But it did become a bit of a nightmare, and I still had my agencies running, which I personally wasn't doing the representative of anymore. I hired somebody to do that. And then I decided it was just too much for me. And sort of, it was 3 years, you know, that we ran that beautiful place, and it was very well known, and everybody will, you know, anybody who went there would be able to say, wow, that was a gorgeous place, you know. But yeah, it took its toll, and I decided that it was time to just rent a room.
Yeah.
Instead, much easier. I could come and go as I pleased, and I had more time for my family, and yeah, just more time for me a little bit, you know, and better time for my clients, because, you know, when you're rushed and frazzled, you don't give your clients the attention that they need.
Yeah.
So I decided that I would venture out into my own little rent a room, and it worked incredibly well. And I did that for many, many years, very, very successfully.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then there came a time, as you know, in life that there was more money that needed to be put on into the household. Kids were growing up. We had matric dances to attend, and, you know, all these kind of things. And I just, I had always really been interested in property. And, you know, I'm a very diverse person, so I've kind of gone off on a lot of little shoots. But I always used to say to people that I've never had one thing going, never in my whole entire life. There's always been 2 or 3 or 4 businesses running.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like that juggle, you know. Obviously, maybe with kids from a young age, I learned how to juggle things nicely.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to take up in a health in the property industry, which was a bit daunting at first, but I thought, well, exciting, you know, something new. I didn't close my practice, so I still had my clients going on the side. And I ventured into property, which is really, really good money. You know, you get these huge chunks of money when you sell a home.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I sold 3, 4, 5, 6 homes. And I thought, wow, you know, this is a great way to make big bucks. And yeah, I started my career in property, which actually also lasted on and off for, you know, a good 20 years within that, you know, time span, maybe 15 years of good property time. And yeah, it was very successful, but I never, ever left my clients. So there was always this double, you know,
just double identity, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I think not many people I know do that, but my daughter actually does this as well. So and my father was also very much like this. So it's obviously a trait in our family to be able to juggle things.
Yeah,
And it's also exciting.
Yeah, yeah, and actually having, you know, having different interests as well, and also, I mean, you know, it's a great way of, you know, when you are setting up a business, if you're running something alongside that, it's a great way of networking and meeting new people.
Fantastic.
Talk to about other things that you're doing. Otherwise, if you know, you just, you know, I meet people who set up, okay, I'm going to be, you know, a health practitioner. Fantastic. Where are you going to get your clients from?
Yes, yes.
And, you know, and
yes,
yes, you know, we can, you know, rely on sort of word of mouth recommendation and advertising and networking. But if you've got something else running at the same time, it also
yes,
opens up those avenues to
absolutely.
attract new people. And like, oh, what else do you do? Oh, did I
Yes,
not tell? And then all of a sudden, then there's an opportunity there to help that person.
yes,
And
yes.
if we're all honest, you know, we all need help at some point, don't we? You know, just to,
Absolutely.
and sometimes just a little bit, just a bit of tuning, isn't it? Just to get us,
Yeah.
get our, you know, get our health journey back on track. Yeah.
Yes. And I did actually find that a lot of my, the people I met through property, I mean, even the people within my office, that, you know, they were always asking me, you know, what do they do about this? Because they would, you know, I'm an example. You have to be an example of who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah.
And I've always stood for good health. So, you know, I'd bring my lunch to work, and I would bring, you know, I'd make sure our kitchen was always like healthy. And, you know, if people were eating something or drinking too much coffee, it was just in me to say, wow, you know, how much coffee are you drinking a day? Or, you know, something like that. And it would end up being like a consultation.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, well, you know, I've got these packages, so you're welcome to book yourself in. And even at that time with the property, I would also carry on running these wellness workshops, you know. So there was always this element of the health coming in wherever I was. And it was great because, you know, when you're in the health industry, and you're always around healthy people or health conscious people, then you're not really making much of a, you know, to your colleagues, that is, you're not making a huge impact. But when you're taking yourself as a health practitioner out of that environment and putting yourself into a normal environment, you know, workforce environment, where everybody is just, you know, actually needing advice on health, you are making a much bigger impact. And even, you know, because I feel, you know, my clients also say I'm quite intuitive with things, then I'd be walking around somebody's home and they'd have like a slight cough or something. And I'd say, oh, are you, do you eat a lot of dairy, you know? And they would go, yeah, actually I do. And then I'd say, well, do you find that when you eat dairy, you know, that you get this postnasal drip? And, you know, so you kind of are a lot more impactful than what you would be if you were just waiting for people to come to you, you know?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the balance of this, like taking yourself out of your comfort zone and putting yourself into an arena where there is normal, can I call them normal people?
We are, Kym, we are normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like you sort of had a, you know, sort of got sort of quite a busy, you know, work-life balance going on. But this didn't stop there, did it? Because I think you're the sort of person that's always looking for opportunities, and that's, you know, sort of leading on to how you then found the NES Health system. So how did that transpire?
So it kind of eludes me as to really how I found this, but I think it was an advert that came up in one of the newsletters from the pharmacies that, you know, I did my rounds on. And it was a little notice there just saying a wellness weekend up in Johannesburg, which was quite a flight up. I have to, you know, I'd have to fly up and take a weekend. And they explained the system that would get to the root of the problem. And, you know, there were a few little bells that really resonated, you know, sort of like piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And so I went up, and it was an incredibly interesting weekend. I was just blown away by the system, you know, that you could just put your hand on a scanner, and in minutes you would be able to look into all of these different areas. And for me, it had always been a driving, seeking force that I wanted to get to the bottom of the problem. You know, I wanted to get to the root cause. I wanted to know why the body was doing what it was doing. And this really kind of, you know, ticked that box. So I signed up. I got myself into the NES family and into the whole NES system. And it was in the days of, it was called BioSync then, and it was, you know, not like it is today where we're so advanced in the technology of it, but it was similar. And there were just so many things that I could see each client that I was already seeing, that I could put them into the system, and they could, you know, I could give them something concrete to work with. With the infoceuticals that would then correct, etc. So it was just very exciting. And I literally I signed up on the Sunday evening, and by Wednesday I had my first like 5 clients, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, you know, when I'm using the NES system with people is clients don't always tell you, well, they tell you what they think you need to know.
Yes.
They don't always tell you, you know, and often when we'll see patterns work coming up in the scan, won't we, that things go back to, you know, many, many years previously, and people don't often associate something that perhaps happened in their teenage years or in their adolescent years is actually as a manifestation of what's actually, you know, what those symptoms are now.
Absolutely.
And I've personally found when you're doing a scan people, especially when you're going into the mind-body screens, and you can see those patterns coming up, and you ask, you know, a couple of questions, and you can just see them like, how does the scan know that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's gone from being, oh, you need to do this, isn't it? To, wow, okay, tell me more. What else do I need to do? And
Yes.
helping someone to clear those old distortions, that blocked energy, and seeing the change in people. I bet you've seen some, you've got some great stories to share, haven't you, with clients?
Wow, I tell you, I mean, just going into that mind-body screen, just touching on that, I had a client that had loss in her sort of uteri area. And I said to her, did you, have you lost a baby, or did you have, and I didn't ask her if she'd had an abortion, but it came out. I mean, she just started crying and crying. Tears were just, falling down of her eyes. And she had lost a child, and she said, there's just no ways that anybody could ever have known that. She hadn't told anybody. It had happened when she was quite young, and she hadn't even told her mother.
Wow.
And it had really caused this, latent kind of problem in her uteri area. And also, she just didn't know how to correct things. And it had screwed up her hormonal system. And there were many things, from that. But that showed up, and we were able to correct and help her get on a nice path going forward, But yes, I have seen clients come in with zero energy, and 4 months, 5 months down the line, they're just so grateful that they can get out of bed and actually function. So, inflammation, mood, incredible at helping with mood. So, even seeing people that are on that borderline of depression, just really helping them out of that place where they've been to counseling and they've been seeing a therapist for the last 20 years and nothing's changed. Within literally months of being on the NES program, they are new people. So many of those that, it would take up another session.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, initially from South Africa, I know you're not living in South Africa anymore. So you're now, your life took a sort of bit of a turn of events a couple of years ago, didn't it? So
yes.
Can you sort of explain that?
Yeah. So in the property industry, so I must have been there for a reason. I met the man of my dreams. And so he came in, he wanted to have a look at some investment property, and I took him around and I thought, nice chap, and the rest is history. I think we're going on our 10th or 11th anniversary soon. So we got married, and I carried on with property a little bit. And then in 2019, we decided to, I actually have a Irish descent. My mum's Irish and my grandfather's Irish. So I have Irish passport and citizenship. So we decided we'd come to Ireland and, just a change, really, another adventure. And, obviously I was going to leave everything behind me. My property industry, the agencies, all of that, I couldn't bring that with me. So the only thing I could bring with me, though, was my knowledge in the health arena, and my, nutritional therapy background, my many modalities that I hold and have certification on. And I thought, well, I got to Ireland. And I thought, well, what now? I don't know a single soul here at all. And what am I going to do? And NES kind of started to come to me. In fact, I actually looked up who was doing NES in Ireland. And there was only one gentleman here, a lovely guy called Michael. And I contacted him and I asked, we chatted a little bit about it. And I thought, well, why not? What have I got to lose? It's a fantastic system. I obviously upgraded to the new system, so I'm all up to date with everything. I also redid my, the learning process.
All the training,
all the training certification, and there's just so much more to offer. So I've gone into all of the other aspects of what NES has to offer as well. And I started my practice in, I think it was June 2020. Yeah, somewhere around there.
So right in the middle of a pandemic.
Right in the middle of it. Why not?
So I mean, in terms of, traditionally, being a health practitioner, it's people come and see you, don't they?
Yes.
So all of a sudden we found ourselves last year in a situation whereby, you weren't even, at one point, you weren't even allowed to see family members outside of you, if they didn't live with you. So how on earth did you set up a business in the middle of a pandemic when you weren't allowed to see anybody?
Well, that was interesting. So what I did when I first came to Ireland was I got myself involved with the health, I thought, well, I don't know anybody, so I've got to get to know somebody. So I put myself as a what do they call it? A minimum wage earner in a health shop, which is just 20-30 minutes away from my home drive. And fortunately, the health shop didn't close down during the pandemic because it's an essential service.
Yeah.
So I got my beautiful brochures printed, and I started to chat to people in the health shop, and we connected. And at that time, NES was busy with a very, very innovative, and I think almost first of its kind, where you can just do a voice recording over the voice and you can get a scan. But I think it was just pre that. There were scanners that people could have or buy, and they would do it from their home. So this is how I did it in the June, July, August. I think we launched the voice in, can't really remember.
It was towards the end of last year that we actually launched the voice scanning.
Yeah. So up until that point, I was basically letting people, buy a scanner, and I was doing the scans like that. And I actually was seeing probably about 4 to 5 people a week. And that was just through my connections in the health shop. So again, I think people really need to place themselves in a situation where they are able to network. I mean, if I had sat in my home and had done absolutely nothing, I wouldn't have a business. But I kind of thought out of the box, and it was pre getting the NES all up and running. I had already started in the health shops. I'd already started to get the confidence of people, because I'm a nutritional therapist. So people would come in with an issue, and I would be able to advise. And so they had a little bit of confidence in that. I knew what I was talking about. And that's also very important, to know, to have people, especially when you're a foreigner in a new country where you know absolutely nobody. And, you need to build their confidence. And I managed to do that quite successfully, I think. And that's how I got my clients. And that's how I carried on my business. And then, of course, the voice scan arrived, which made life so much easier, because now people didn't have to buy the scanner. And in fact, at the time, I think I was giving the scanner, I was kind of like doing a special around the scanner so that people didn't actually have to pay much for their scanner. And that was it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you're very good at knowing, where you're going in life, aren't you? And, and I know we talked about the fact that, you offer different packages to clients, but you know who your target, say your target market, that's probably not the right expression, but you know who your client is, who you want to work with. And I think that's really important, isn't it? Rather than sort of like using perhaps a scattergun approach, actually being aware of who, what does your client look like? Where do they go? What sort of age bracket are they in?
Yes.
What's their disposable income? you know, so, and being aware of all of these areas, you know, where they like to hang out on the weekend, things like that. So, and I know you've really sort of, you know, done your homework to establish who your ideal client is, and adapted a program that helps people of a certain age and gender. So are you happy to sort of share that?
Yeah, well, as you know, Helen, I think this is it's an always evolving process. It's kind of like getting to your client, your ideal client, you know, the person that you feel that you can resonate best with.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get here, I must be honest, because I'm so kind of I know where I want to be and where I'm going, but along the path there's all these shiny objects, you know. I'm a bit like a magpie, and it's like, oh, that looks interesting, let's go there. Oh, there's another interesting part, you know. And there's all these baubles around the sidelines, and you've kind of got to really focus on getting that line of thought where I'm really going, because I do believe, and I mean, it's been through trial and error, I promise you, and I'm sure there'll be more trial and error as I go along. And as I start to tweak and make my programs more direct. But, you know, I think to begin with, it was very like sort of like, oh, I'll just see anybody right now, you know, because I was seeing various people's in the health shop, and it was like, okay, well, I don't have much of a choice right now. I'm just going to see these people. So that's how I began. But then I realized, and through, you know, a life coach myself, you know, seeing a business coach,
Yeah.
She said to me, you know, Kym, there's comes a time where you've got to decide now who your client is going to be and who you're going to be marketing to. So I think, you know, for me, I'm in perimenopause, going into menopause. So that was like, okay, this sounds like a good place, because I can identify with those people. Then there's the adrenal fatigue people, because I have had adrenal fatigue, and I'm pretty much, you know, it's a long process. I have a program mapped out for adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
So that would be a client of mine as well. But being in perimenopause or menopause, you are actually in adrenal. There's a lot of women that are in adrenal fatigue. So it's kind of a very much a hand in glove, and they match quite well. So that's kind of my, I would say my target market, or, you know, my ideal client.
Yes.
Is the person that would be 40 plus, you know, because menopause and perimenopause seems to be happening earlier, you know, I was only in my sort of end of my 40s going into my 50s when I experienced that. But in thinking it and listening to a lot of people, I realized that actually I was probably already in perimenopause by 45, you know. So I would say my programs are to that market, that client, that ideal client would be 40 plus, adrenal fatigue, empty nest syndrome, menopause, you know, perimenopause.
I mean, I was very early going through the menopause. I actually finished pretty much by the time I was 38, but
wow.
I know, so very early. But one of the things that I noticed is, you know, waking up one morning, and it's like I felt like somebody had actually been crept in overnight and put another, you know, tube around my waist, and I'm like, what?
Yes.
It's like that's never been there before.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow, where did that come from? And actually, you know, it's just the change in the energy levels, you know, I think, you know, the brain fog.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're just like talking like gaga, you know, there's so
No.
many aspects to it. So, you know, and obviously the, you know, the identity crisis, the weight, you know, the weight gain, and it's just, I think, you know, for a lot of them, it's learning to embrace that, isn't it?
It is really about learning to accept that this is the next phase of your life.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes me think about those wellness weekends I used to have when I was a teenager, because, you know, these are all little kind of milestones that we go through. You're going through teenagehood, where you're starting a period and your boobs are growing and, you know, your body's changing. It's kind of the same, you know, you've passed that, obviously. And now you're going into this next phase where your body's changing again. Your boobs are not like here, they're like more down there. And your belly, you know, as you say, some elves came in the night and decided to pack a little bit of padding on there. And the brain is like, doesn't always work fantastically well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, it's the next change, it's this next phase, and it is really, yes, it's about acceptance. You know, what can we do about it?
But the thing is, that's the thing, there are so many things that we can do about it, isn't
yes,
it?
yes,
and
yes.
that's the, you know, that's, you know, and addressing different areas of people's lives. And that's what I love about the NES scan so much, is because when you scan someone, and it'll show all the, you know, all the different areas within, you know, within the body, and the you know, what we call the energetic drivers. So, you know, what the driving force, you know, behind the powering up the organs and the organ systems, and then looking at the mind-body connection, and looking at our immunity and our gut health, and it just gives us such an amazing amount of information.
Yes.
And just one or two changes, people will start to notice very quickly, don't they?
Absolutely.
Their energy levels are improved, you know, their sleep pattern is improved, you know, their
brain fog.
Yeah, and all of that, you know, and it's just rebalancing it, you know, because hormones are so entwined, aren't they? It's such a difficult system to rebalance.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wouldn't want to go in rebalancing that system without my NES scan, because that NES scan gives me a bird's eye view, you know, eagle eye, I call it, because I'm Kym Eagle, you know. Gives me an eagle eye view into what's going on in their body, and their body's own intelligence tells me. So it's, a client will often say, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. I don't think that's right, you know. And I'll go, well, it's your own body's telling me, you know, it's your own body's intelligence, what I'm seeing here. So it's a picture of what your body is asking for, the support it needs. So they may come in for pain under their rib or liver, you know, they think there's something wrong with their liver. But actually, the scan might tell us something completely different, but it affects that whole system.
Yeah.
So, you know, that is, I think, a big thing for a lot of clients that I see to get their head around, is to also just trust the scan, and to understand that it's an unfolding process, and that it's not about one scan. You know, and that's why I always say to people, I can see you once. That's great. You know, we're going to start your journey, but it doesn't end there. It only is the beginning. So, you know, I have clients, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 clients that I see, that will only do one scan, and then I don't see them again, or hear, you know, I obviously follow up, but I don't hear back from them. And that's absolutely fine, because the other 8 have decided that they want to do this journey, the 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, or however long. And then we are going to be uncovering so many different aspects along that 10-month journey. And that's really the client that I like to work with, is that one.
Yeah. Do you find as well that, you know, people who perhaps, you know, think, oh, I just need to have one scan, it's kind of like, it's almost like the analogy, okay, well, I'm going to get really fit, you know, and I'm going to get, you know, a fantastic, you know, fantastic physique, but I'm only going to go to the gym once.
Yes.
You know, generally that doesn't, you know, you have to commit to that. And I think health and wellness, you know, people have to commit to taking ownership, of wanting to get healthy, and whether you know, your journey is encompassing weight loss, whether you're aware of perhaps you need to clean up your environment around you. Is it the fact that how you view life that needs to make, you know, you need to change with that, because I'm, you know, our life journey and our mind body screens really help people and find their new path in life, you know, or
Yes.
their destiny, really, isn't it?
Yes.
And actually, it is that commitment, isn't it?
It is. And I always say to people that you are your own best healer.
Mm.
But to be that person, you need to take control of that. You know, you need to take responsibility for what goes into your head, what your thoughts are, the environment you put yourself into, the people you mix with, etc. And it really is a holistic approach. You know, I like to look at the wholeness of it. And in fact, I'm busy with the IAWP certification at the moment, and we talk about that a lot, the 360 core coaching method. And there, you know, that's where I build this into my packages. So I'm not only just doing a NES scan, we are then going on to the nutritional support. We're looking at your challenge, then your outcome, then we reframe things, and then we, you know, make a new vision. So we work very systematically, and I like systems myself because I feel like I'm giving a person something concrete to work with. So when I see a person, then I will send them a workbook to, you know, to complete, maybe a vision statement or some goal setting, etc. You know, so we really, I like to work a little bit deeper than just doing a NES scan, which is obviously the beginning of it. But you know, there's so much more that goes into a package after that.
Yeah, fantastic. So I had a quick look at your website.
Yes,
I know you've
thank you.
spent some time with getting that up together, and it looks fantastic. I have to admit,
Thank you.
It really does help people to learn more about you, what you do, who you are, and how you can help them. So I know you've got, you know, there's different packages that people can, you know, can choose. You know, initially, and then obviously then perhaps they might look at more of the maintenance program. So are you happy to share your website address with us, Kym?
Absolutely, yes. I will share the link to my NES page on my website. It'll take you to like a sales page. It'll tell you a little bit about the process that I work with. And then it will have a couple of different options there. I do the remote scan, I do the one-on-one scanning, and then I do the My Health treatment, of course, which we haven't even touched on, but it's just such a fantastic little device. But you can read all about it in my website. I've gone into quite a lot of detail on there. And then, of course, we've got the packages, the 6-month packages. And then, of course, people can renew that. And I have a payment plan in place for the 6-month package. And of course, the scans are easy to book. You just press the book now button, and that takes you through to a Calendly where you can just book and pay, or book and then pay after, however you'd like to work it.
Fantastic. So what, can you just give us your website address?
So it is, it would just be kymeagle.com, and then it's a stroke wellness, but if you just go on to kymeagle.com,
okay, so
and
that's spelled Kym, isn't it?
That is right, yes. A little bit different.
Yes,
Kym
Eagle, EAGLE.com.
.com. And then you just look for the tab that says wellness. It's a little bit of a play on the NES part.
Yeah.
And then that explains everything in there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Just before we go, are there any particular infoceuticals that you're recommending to people at the moment?
Well, I personally use youth all the time, because it is, and people think, oh gosh, yeah, there we go. Yes.
I have my here.
My bottle is just over there.
Yeah.
It is one of those infoceuticals that has helped me through my perimenopause and menopause. It also helps you with radiation from the sun and from, you know, all the devices that are out there. And I just find that it is I'm actually just about to run out. So I'm about to do my next orders. And that is one, you know, with women at our age now, I kind of, that is my go-to, you know. Yeah, I would say youth is definitely my go-to. I have many, you know, that I really love, but youth is definitely one of them. And then obviously energy is also great.
Yeah.
And for the female, you know, the female one is also very, very good. So those would be ones actually that I would put my, if they're not, you know, if they're in between infoceuticals and scans and that, and they want just to add on feel good, then I would recommend the youth, the female, and the energy, because they are kind of all encompassing. And if they want to, if they are struggling with sleep, then we have night or sleep, or the both of them together, which I really like. I had to be on sleep and night for almost a year to kind of get my circadian rhythms back to where they needed to be because of this high, you know, adrenal fatigue. And also remembering I've moved from the Southern Hemisphere into the Northern Hemisphere. So I really needed help. There are just so many wonderful feel goods, and I will have my shop of feel goods up and running shortly. It's not up there yet. Because I just wanted to have it all beautiful and have a description under each one. So they're not available yet, but if you do want anything like that, then of course just reach out and I can hook you up with whatever you need.
I mean, I definitely would back you on the youth infrastructural, and I mean and energy, definitely. I mean, my go-to at the moment, if it's a morning where I'm doing physical training, then it will be energy and rejuve in my water bottle. When I get back, I will redo that, and then I'll add some youth in there as well. And also, you know, I think at the amount of time, you know, we think that most of us are spending in front of computer screens now, artificial lighting, it's actually that's having an effect on, you know, our electromagnetic, you know, sensitivity.
Of course.
And all of that adds to, you know, so that aging process. So I think sometimes we just think about the aging process about how we look on the outside, isn't it? It's actually what's going on the inside. Exactly.
It's all got to do actually with the inside, because the inside will then portray what the outside looks like. But we have to start, it's an inner job. I always say it's an inner job.
Absolutely, Well, Linda Kym, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I've learned some great stuff about you. You know, and I just think, you know, your passion for what you do and starting from such an early age, you know, and your knowledge and your skills and how you can help people. I mean, we're just so grateful that, you know, you are part of the NES family and offering that to your clients, you know, as a way of supporting their health journey as well. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
We will speak again soon, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Helen. I really enjoyed this.